Namaste. Welcome to new session. Last time we were dealing with Pranamaya Kosha. The reference I need to repeat is that we have to look into pranayam in an educative process, and the world is not familiar with this process. World is familiar with consumer package of pranayam, so everyone gets pranayam. Instructions on pranayam is taught, pranayam is practiced. But in educative form, educative process, there is big difference, and that is what we are looking into now. So Pranamaya Kosha was being, therefore pranayam is something by, on, for, with, in, on Pranamaya Kosha. That's an aspect of esoteric body, esoteric anatomy. And therefore I said we must, to understand Pranamaya Kosha, not understanding Pranamaya Kosha, not having slightest idea about it, going for pranayam is outclassical, non-classical, unclassical approach. So in classical approach, the Pranamaya Kosha was understood rather than just understanding the breath and breathing and then breathing slow and breathing deep and breathing full and etc., or breathing from right nostril and breathing from left nostril, etc. That is Shvasayam. But this is Pranayam, and therefore some idea about Pranamaya Kosha is so important, and that's why we were looking into Pranamaya Kosha. And to look at Pranamaya Kosha, we must understand the Pancha Koshas, because it is one of the five koshas: Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya. And therefore we had a basic and introductory understanding of Annamaya Kosha as well, and then Pranamaya Kosha, and in Pranamaya Kosha we came to 6 chakras: Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipuraka, Anahata, Vishuddhi, Agnya. So it was just introductory information. Then some of you have idea about the 7th chakra, Sahasrara chakra. However, in yoga technology, there is mention of Shat chakra and Shat chakra kriyas. Why not 7th chakra? 7th chakra has only one purpose, and that purpose is on the point of liberation. That's an escape route for salvation, escape route for emancipation. Only when that Jivatma escapes through Brahmarandhra, which is in Sahasrara chakra, then it goes for emancipation. So it has only one function: to emancipate a jiva and bestow the Kaivalya, Nirvana, Moksha. And it is constituted by all the letters, and all the letters are already covered by 6 chakras. It doesn't have any additional letters, as there are no additional letters. All the chakras collectively have all the aksharas, and therefore these aksharas come in 1000-petaled chakra. So they are repetition of the same letters. Now these letters are not just letters as we understand, because we have been introduced to it as letters, literal letters. They are aksharas. Aksharas for language, and very significant kind of designation to those. We don't call them literal letters, as is the case in other languages. They are called literal letters. These are not literal letters. These are akshara. Akshara means destructible, and akshara means indestructible. So they are energy forms. So the Adi Shakti manifest in the forms of these aksharas, and those become energy forms. So actually these are all energy forms. Like, to give you an example for you to understand, which is little amusing example. Some unknown person, Tom, Dick, Harry, writes you a letter, and you receive the letter. What is that letter? Which is saying only, I love you. Now you do not know this person, so that word, what does it mean? The sentence has a meaning, but what does it mean to you? You are, in all probabilities, you are unhappy with some Tom, Dick, and Harry writing you a letter, and with that message that I love you. But if your beloved itself writes you those words, what is the value of the words? The value changes. Unknown person writes, you have one reaction. But your beloved writes to you the same words, it means a lot. The statement has not changed. The letters have not changed. Letters have come in same arrangement. Perhaps that person has written that calligraphically, and your beloved has not written calligraphically, maybe not such good handwriting, yet it has more value. Why is it? Because those letters become power. If your beloved tells you, I love you, it becomes energy booster for you. Some Tom, Dick, and Harry says it doesn't work that way. It can work negatively as well. So they become energy forms. Who says can become energy form. Someone can say, and same thing can give you depleted energy conditions. A statement uttered by a person, the person is so related to you that it can give depleted conditions in energy. Same letters repeated by another person, and that person having uttered those words becomes energy form for you. So what is said is not important in this world. Who says is more important. Who says, when it is said, how it is said matters a lot. So they become energy forms. They are not inert letters. Because a letter can animate you, letters can provocate you, letter can energize you, letter can deplete you, give depleted conditions. So they become energy forms for us. So these are energy forms, indestructible, because that is how the Adi Shakti manifests, and therefore they are called Matrukas. I won't go into that detail, because in the introductory level we need not be understanding what is that. We know what is Mata. Mata is mother. Adi Shakti is Adi Mata. She is mother of all. She is mother of all creation. She is mother of all manifestations. This is beautifully described in the Saptashati of on Devi. So those who are familiar with Saptashati, that mother has been described in so many ways, how she is manifesting within us in the form of hunger, thirst, intelligence, mind, sleep, every kind of power in us. It is manifestation of Adi Devi. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu. And then it describes various forms of energies on which we thrive. She manifests in all so many forms. That is why the prana is called Vishwa Chaitanya Shakti, and these letters in chakras have different meaning. If the same letters written on a piece of paper don't mean much, but when those letters are there in the chakras, they mean a lot. They become energy forms. Just as I gave you an example for you to understand this. The three words, I love you. Who says, when it is said, how it is said, it can become enormous energy form. So these are not literal letters, these are akaradik shakaranta letters. They come in the petals of the chakras and they are matrukas, they are energy forms. So Sahasrara chakra has the same letters because from Mooladhara to Agnya you get all the Kshara letters. And then in Sahasrara chakra they are repeated. And it really doesn't have manifestation, there's only one function. Therefore, in technology of yoga, there is mention of Shat Chakra Nirupana. There is not 7 Chakra Nirupana. 7th chakra is only escape gate for a proficient yogi who has attained spiritual samambonam. Anyway, so there is the 7th chakra, which is at the top of the head, and there is Brahmarandhra. Randhra means hole. And at the top of the head, at the top of the crown, there is a hole. A newborn baby, you can feel that there is a hollow. And that is why it is filled up by applying oil to the crown of the head of the baby. And then it is filled up over a period of time. However, there is a hole. That is the hole, that's a gate. That is a gate which is an escape route for individual self when it is to be emancipated. That is Sahasrara chakra. So, that was a brief introduction to chakras. This is very, very basic, fundamental, introductory information. I have not gone into depth of it. So, the Shat chakra is part of Pranamaya Kosha, which is loci for all the celestial forces within us to operate. Then, other aspect of Pranamaya Kosha is Pancha Pranas, 5 pranas. Prana, Apana, Samana, Vyana, Udana. Prana, Apana, Samana, Vyana, Udana. These are 5 pranas. The prana is one. The prana is one. But it has been given 5 nomenclatures depending upon the region and therefore their function. It is one and the same energy. But in different locations of our body, trunk, it plays different roles. And therefore it is given 5 nomenclatures. Like our planet Earth has only one ocean. There is only one ocean. But we have given them the names, 5 names. However, the water is same and it is only one ocean on the planet. But for our convenience, for our geographical mapping, etc., we have given the names Arctic, Antarctic, Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean. The water is one and the same. These are names given by us. These are names given because of the location they are in. In particular location it is called Pacific, another location it is called Atlantic, another location it is called Indian Ocean, another location it is called Arctic Ocean and Antarctic Ocean. Ocean is one. Similarly, this prana is only one. But in different locations it has been given different nomenclatures, names, because it has different functions. So below the navel it is called Apana. Navel to the heart region it is called Samana. In the heart region it is called Prana. Up to throat it is called Prana. Then throat it is called Udana. Throat and above it is called Udana. And Vyana is all over. So that's how the nomenclatures. They are not five pranas having different substantial status. Substance is one. Substance doesn't change. But in 5 locations, they have 5 functions, different functions. So below the navel, the prana will work for excretion, etc., and the movement of the lower organs, lower extremities. When the same prana goes above the throat, it becomes Udana and it starts working for brain functions. And there is a big difference between brain function and function below the navel. So because of the different functions, it is convenient to call them in different names so that we can carry out their studies. Otherwise, prana is only one. Now, this prana, as I said, it is energy. Oxygen is only energy for biological status in us. Then oxygen is needed in different parts of the body where it goes through blood and oxygen is supplied to various cells. However, all our functions are not by oxygen. The oxygen has to transform into so many different forms of energies for variegated forms of energies to function in human being, as human being. So, if I may say so, for you to understand, of course, this is just as an analogy I am giving for you to comprehend. You know crude oil. Does your car run on crude oil? No. You can't fill up your tank with a crude oil and run your car. So this oxygen comes as something like crude oil within us, which is only good for us to keep living. But then it has to be transformed into so many different forms because we work with variegated forms of energies, physical energies, mental energies, life force energies, intellectual energies, emotional energies, psychic energies, and n number of energies are there within human beings. We don't just work on one energy. Energy has to come in different forms. Like another example I will give, electricity. Electricity will manifest in several ways. It becomes light, it becomes heater, it becomes cooler, it becomes fan, it becomes freezer, it can become machine, it can become motor. So electricity is one and the same, but it manifests in different ways depending upon the apparatus through which it is running. So the electricity will work in several ways. Similarly, this energy works in several ways in human beings. And therefore, there have to be several forms of energies within us. So the crude oil goes to refineries, and then from refineries you get your petrol, and then your car runs on your petrol. Let me tell you, we know our breath goes through nostrils. Nostril is incredible refinery. Even the exoteric science has not really understood what nostrils are. They have not really identified its such an importance that actually is there. See, the nostrils are incredible refineries, and it refines the breath and transforms the breath in so many forms to go into different places in our body and have different kinds of activities carried out. You know what is chemical status of oxygen? You call it O in physical chemistry. O is the formula of it, letter of it. The air, the breath that we take through the nostrils, the breath doesn't go into the lungs as it comes at the gates. There's a lot of refining taking place on the breath to go into lungs. See, the temperature outside might be sub-zero, -10, -15, -3, -4. But by the time it goes into the lungs, the temperature is human temperature. You will not be taking sub-zero temperatures to the lungs. You will not take it. It doesn't go there that way. So nostrils, immediately there are turbines in the nostrils, and they work on the breath. So it immediately is heated to our temperatures. 98 degrees Fahrenheit. And with that temperature it goes. So while it came, perhaps it was sub-zero Fahrenheit. But when it is in the nose, it immediately is processed. Like we say, we have concept of edible food. All food is not edible. We need to process the food, we have to select the food, we have to process the food, and then it becomes edible food. So the breath, the air that is taken in has to become lungable breath. Lungable. So there are so many processes which take place. The air is filtered. Otherwise, there is so much of dust in the atmosphere where you get your air. We don't take the dust into us. So the dust is stuck in the nostrils. That's why we have hair in the nose. So it is stuck there. If the dust goes into lungs, you can imagine what can happen. You get infection, etc., and disease, etc. So there is a lot of purificatory process taking place, a lot of processing taking place. This is the air that we take it as oxygen is something like crude oil. You can't fill in crude oil in your car and make the car run on crude oil. It needs to be processed and refined. So the nostrils are marvelous instruments to carry out so many processes on the breath and make it lungable. And then only it gets into the lung. It goes into the what you call as air pipe, windpipe. So it's a marvelous organ. We need to have some appreciation for it. And every 4 seconds we are taking new breath. So understand the pace in which it is working. Every 4 seconds new in breath. And then it carries out all this processing in no time. It purifies, and it's an enormous filter. It's enormous vigilance agency, because our breathing is incessant activity for 24/7. So it is on duty 24/7 into lifespan and highly vigilant. So we don't give any credit to whole mechanism of nostrils. And very significantly, in Adidevi constitution, it is described that the celestial physicians called Ashwini Kumar, the twins, are celestial physicians. They are physicians of the gods. They are presiding deities over the nostrils. Ashwini Kumars are the presiding deities of the nostrils. It is such an incredible organ where we don't recognize it that much. We don't give any importance to it. Another thing, Ashwini, there is word Ashwa. Ashwa means horse. Horse is ever alert, ever active. Horse is ever standing. Figuratively, we have to say, take it standing. It is literally standing. If the horse sits, horse is killed. Horse doesn't even sit. So this force in the nostrils is like Ashwa in the sense, ever alert, ever standing. Because 24/7 into lifespan it has to work. With same amount of vigilance. It cannot relax even for a moment. So in word Ashwini there is Ashwa. This is also very significant, ever alert. And after all, this breath is going to the Pranamaya Kosha, which is the loci for all the divine forces within us. And that is why the divine physician is right at the gate. So significant. The Ashwini Kumar, the physician, twin physicians are right at the gates of the breathing organ. And they do all kinds of, the vigilance is there, all kind of processing is carried out. Any enormous chemical processing is carried out in the nostrils. If you are little more familiar familiar with the science of yoga, it says if you are angry, you have corresponding breath. If you are crazy, you have corresponding breath. If you are you are overcome with some emotions, sentimental, there is corresponding kind of breath. If you are egoistic, there is corresponding kind of breath. If you are sublime, another corresponding kind of breath. If you are humble, corresponding kind of breath. For every emotion, there is corresponding kind of breathing. So it is processed in the nose for your emotions, which are already there. And the breath is also modified accordingly. Therefore, if the mind is in turmoil, your breathing will be having bizarre schemes. That's why in yoga we speak about steadying the mind, giving a pattern to mind, so that the breath will be more rich in form. Otherwise, there will be bizarre kind of breathing taking place if the moods are changing or the moods are negative. The breath is corresponding. There is correspondence between the breath and the mind. So even your breathing changes. Find out if you are angry, when you breathe, you hit the membrane. And that's why the nostrils horizontally become broad when you are angry. That's why the tip of the nose is very thin. Anyway, that's something that you need to observe yourself. When you are angry, how do you breathe? When you are with some emotion or sentiment or love, etc., how do you breathe? If you are in delights, how do you breathe? If you are in sorrows, how do you breathe? It's something to be observed. Your nostril is such a flexible organ. Like dancer has several expressions on the face, nostrils has several forms. If I may say so, it can be called as physiognomy of the breath. It has so many forms, as many moods, so many forms. So the breath is processed for the state of mind within you. If you are regulating the mind, then the breath also will be contributing to regulate the mind. Anyway, this is not necessary to go into details at our introductory phase of education. The point is, the breath doesn't go as it is outside you. Whatever is the chemical composition of oxygen, it is just at the gates of the nostrils. Up to that, it is elemental air. But once it is into the gates, it is totally a different entity. As a matter of fact, it is not a gaseous matter. It is a chemical matter. Because our body has 70% of chemicals. So we are 70% chemical embodiments. So the moment it reaches the embodiment, it is in conjunction with the chemicals. Our mental states are chemical states. Emotional states are chemical states. Psychomental states are chemical states. So the breath, the moment it enters in, it is, therefore we say, breath flows, and this flow, the breath is like water flow. Air also flows, but when we say the breath is flowing in our embodiment, it flows like river, and it doesn't flow like air. The moment it is into the nostrils, once it is touched with the nostrils at the very gates, it ceases to be an element of air. It becomes chemical. Because we are chemical complex. So many things are there which are fascinating, which the science of yoga tells us about. And then it manifests in different forms. We need one kind of energy to digest our food, another kind of energy to digest our mental inputs. Imagine the way you might be digesting your food. How do you digest your food? We need to digest something which is a mental input also. If we do not digest that mental input, then we are in disarray. So there are so many, even there are mental things to be digested. So it's a different energy to digest mental inputs, mental incomings. Many of them cannot digest it, and when they do not digest, they get agitations. They are devastated, they are explosive, or they are depleted. So it's a different energy form to assimilate what comes in the mind. One kind of assimilation for what comes in our belly in the form of food, edible food. So also there are different kinds of things which come into us, like intellectual assimilation, mental emotional assimilation, emotional assimilation, psychomental assimilation, psychological assimilation. There are so many assimilations which depend on different energy forms, and all those energy forms are provided by this pranamaya kosha. Do you follow? From biological energies to so many kind of energies. We human beings are not just subsisting on biological energies. There are so many kinds of energies in the psychic realm, and therefore every kind of energy is turned out by this pranamaya kosha, which is required for conduct of life. And therefore these are sometimes they are understood as wheels, chakras as wheels. And even today you are aware of this pranic healing concept. This pranic healing is with reference to chakras, because each chakra will generate different kind of form of energy, and we'll need every kind of energy for our life as human beings, or justifiable life as human beings, successful life as human beings, and then exalted human beings. So we need these energies, and these all energies are generated by pranamaya kosha. The pranayam has to do something with these energies. It is for these energies, it is by the energies, it is through the energies, it is on the energies, it is of the energies. It is not breathing regulation, breath regulation. Otherwise the word should have been shvasayama. Although it is pranayam, what we get in consumer package in our 21st century, 20th century, what we got, it was all shvasayam. Be aware of the breath and do the breathing like that, do the breathing like this, and breathing from this nostril, breathing from that nostril, short breath to sharp breath, normal breath to deep breath. It's all respiratory breathing with which we are dealing. Respiratory breathing comes very handy for us to learn certain aspects of pranic processes, because this breath is a vehicle of pranayama. And therefore the breathing is important, respiratory breathing is important. But in yoga it doesn't remain respiratory breathing, it becomes much more than that, it becomes holistic breathing. For everything we need the breathing. To digest the food in our gastric region, we need that breath to work in particular way. So the gastric fire is inflamed and then food is digested better. So energy manifests in so many ways. That is pranic energy. And to be exalting as human beings, we need further great refinements in our energy processes, which yoga has technology. It doesn't refer to in breath and out breath. It says puraka and rechaka. It says puraka, rechaka and antarbahya kumbhakas. Anyway, that's delineation which will come at some later point in time. The Pancha Pranas is also part of Pranamaya Kosha. So I have given little introduction about these Pancha Pranas. We need n number forms of energies, and Pancha Pranas do that. in various permutation combinations, in various proportions, in various processes. They do it. So volume, velocity, density, confinement, deployment, and the process of breathing, which will work in a chemical way to turn out various kinds of energy in an exalted status. And that is why yogis are yogis and distinct to we commoners, because of those energy manifestations, because of the pranayam, because of pranamaya kosha activated in different ways. Various energy forms are turned out. That is pranamaya kosha. So it is energy body, energy profused body, and all these energies are celestial energies. Mind is, they are not terrestrial energies, they are celestial energies. So that's little bit about pancha pranas. So pranamaya kosha is composed of pancha pranas and 6 chakras. That is pranamaya kosha. So that is all that I want to say about the pranamaya kosha. Now, little bit peep into next kosha, which we are allowed to have to consider, since we have to consider 5 koshas. That is called manomaya kosha. Manomaya kosha should not be mistaken to mind, psychological mind. See, the pranamaya kosha has the whole scheme of prarabdha, destiny. If you recall, I had said during earlier sessions that pranamaya kosha gives us whole scheme of our destiny. Why are we like this and why are we not like that? It is because of constitution of Shat chakras, constitution of and functioning of the Shat chakras. So the whole scheme of prarabdha karma gives us a caliber of pranamaya kosha. If our prarabdha karma is very rich, like mystics and saints and sages, then their pranamaya kosha is accordingly devised. That's why they have super energies, they are super yogis energies, superhuman energies, they work with superhuman energies. But we mortals, ordinary beings, because of our prarabdha, our pranamaya kosha is accordingly devised and customized. We get it because of our prarabdha, and therefore the prarabdha will actualize through pranamaya kosha functioning. So the pranamaya kosha houses the entire destiny scheme of our life, and it is suitably given to us to face the destiny. There is no mismatch, and that otherwise it will be chaos. If human embodiment with manifestation of a beastish loin, then that human being will become predator. So that mismatching should not be there. The energy forms and destiny, there should be some compatibility. Otherwise the life will misfire. There will be misfiring in the life. So the pranamaya kosha is devised and customized by the body of prarabdha karma, the destiny. So prarabdha karma has locus in pranamaya kosha, and in manomaya kosha it is storehouse of entire sanchita karma. Sanchita karma means latent deposits of karmas. So that is in manomaya kosha. Manomaya kosha has entire infrastructural scheme for all the lives hereafter. Whatever potentially we should be for forthcoming incarnation and forthcoming incarnations, all the infrastructure is available in manomaya kosha. Manomaya Kosha will house the 8.4 million Vasana schemes, tendency schemes for 8.4 million life forms. It is said that we have 8.4 million life forms in global scenario. And then Manomaya Kosha will be housing all those. So Manomaya Kosha doesn't work much more for present life. It is something which is storehouse of all our latent karma deposits. All the karmas that we have been committing right from time without beginning, they are all stored. That's the cold storage of our karmas. That Sanchita karma is like cold storage. It's not going to work in our present life. Present life is going to work on Prarabdha Karma Rashi. The heap of Prarabdha Karma, the heap of destiny deciding karmas, destiny shaping karmas. Whereas in Manomaya Kosha we have all those karmas stored in it. It's almost like a microfilming, microchip, which contains all those karmas of our past life, impressions of all those karmas that we have carried out from time without beginning in our 8.4 life class manifestations. We have infinite manifestations, but they are all in 8.4 life species. Classes, they are classes. 8.4 classes. They are called yonis. And that, all those are housed in Manomaya Kosha. We should not mistake it to mind. It is not for this mind. It is not, mind is not from that. Our mind is from Pranamaya Kosha. Our mind is from Annamaya Kosha. So this mind, empirical mind, this temporal mind, cerebral mind, cerebrocortical mind, this mind is from Annamaya Kosha and Pranamaya Kosha. Don't mistake it. It is nothing from Manomaya Kosha. Manomaya Kosha strangely has only one gate for entry. The things will enter there in this life, but however not much will come out. For mortals nothing comes out. It's only exalted beings and yogis something it can contribute, because their chitta bhumi is higher, their chitta works on higher plane. So Manomaya Kosha will contribute. But for we mortals, if I may say so, by footed worms of the planet, for we commoners, Manomaya Kosha doesn't have any dispensation. However, it has reception. It receives our karmas which we are committing in this life. The karmas will go to Manomaya Kosha. So the entry aspect is available for us. Our karmas can enter Manomaya Kosha, but there is no exit gate for us to get something from Manomaya Kosha. Only exalted beings, they have something. So that's the Manomaya Kosha. It is housing all our vasanas, samskars, which are not manifesting in this life, which will manifest in our life hereafter, in our subsequent lives. So they are rightly called as latent deposits. They are latent deposits. They won't work. They cannot be liquidated in this life. They will be liquidated in life hereafter. So Manomaya Kosha is an enormous thing. It is the body of entire biological creature available in the universe. In the universe, I am not just saying the planet. Because we can be manifesting sometimes in another galaxy also, according to the Karma Siddhanta. We can manifest in another galaxy, and there will be another kind of life form there. As I said sometimes, metaphysically, no part of this universe No microscopic body in this universe is bereft of life. Some form of the or the other, the life form will be there. Our form of life is not available in Mars. Our form of life is not available on Sun. Our form of life is not available on Uranus, Pluto, and maybe extragalactic bodies. However, some life forms are there. Nothing is devoid of life form. So, the biology that we study on the planet here is only study of life on this planet. Metaphysics tells us clearly that you can't extrapolate and deduce that there is no life elsewhere. There is life even on the sun. There will be fiery embodiment. There will be fiery life. That's why Atma has been characterized in Bhagavad Gita. It cannot be burnt. It cannot be wetted. Why? Since it cannot be burnt, it can manifest on the sun itself, and it is manifesting on the sun in the sun itself. There is life on the sun, not the life akin to life on the planet. Our life here depends upon water here. If there is no water, we will not live. If there is no oxygen, we will not live. Therefore, if we go to moon, we have to carry oxygen, because there is no oxygen on the moon. Even on the planet, we see that the carbon dioxide is intaken by the botanical world. We can't claim that everything lives on oxygen on the planet. Even on the planet, there is life which is living by carbon dioxide and which is emitting oxygen. Reverse of what we are doing. So the life is really something quite marvelous to investigate. So according to philosophy, metaphysics, life exists even on any body in this universe, be that sun, be that be a star of 40,000 degrees, 80,000 degrees. Sun is only 46,500 Kelvin. But there are stars which are 40,000 Kelvin, 50,000 Kelvin, life will be there. That's why Bhagavad Gita says it cannot be burnt, it cannot be wetted, it cannot be dried, it cannot be cut. Why for? So that it can manifest anywhere, in any condition in the universe. The whole universe is occupied by Prakriti and Purusha in metaphysics. Anyway, so that is Manomaya Kosha, not to mistake it with mind. It is all samskar body. And all the schemes, prospective schemes for our life, the infrastructure, inframatter is available in Manomaya Kosha. Suppose in next life, you are going to be a celestial deity. Inframatter is available in Manomaya Kosha. In next life, you are going to be an infernal creature. Inframatter for it is available in Manomaya Kosha. So it will be drawn on the point of death. So on the point of death only, the outward gate is opened to take necessary karma rashi on the point of death. So Manomaya Kosha, in one sense, the outward gate opens only once in life for most all of us, the mortals. And that is to take karmas from latent deposits to create a new body of karmas for new life. So that's the role of Manomaya Kosha. Everything we are carrying within us. We are carrying within us what we are going to be in prospective life and prospective lives for all whatever hundreds and thousands and 10,000s of lives hereafter. All inframatter is available in Manomaya Kosha within us. That's again something, a marvel to be investigating. However, I have just given very introductory information about the third of the koshas, the Manomaya Kosha. I think not much needs to be said at this stage, but it is really a marvel. If I open it out right now, it will be Pandora's box. So let me not open it out. At this stage, when you are trying to have just introductory understanding of Manomaya Kosha. That is all for the day. Namaste.